Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Shahin Ghadir, and welcome to the Fertility. Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Shahin Ghadir with the Fertile Life podcast, and thank you for joining us. I am very excited to get the chance to speak to one of my favorite doctors, Dr. Naidoo. She's a Harvard-trained nutritional psychiatrist and bestseller author of This Is Your Brain on Food. Welcome, Dr. Uma. Thank you so much for joining me again.
Thanks, Dr. Ghadir. I'm happy to chat again. Always happy to talk with you, hear about your practice.
Thank you so much, my dear. The last time that you joined us, we got such unbelievable feedback from our audience and such great comments afterwards. People had so many unbelievable things to say about what we learned. I learned so much myself that was so intriguing and I think so important for people to understand. Not many people have addressed the angle of what you do, the way that you do. And you know what, I usually take a second in the beginning to have people allow them to introduce themselves. So before I get right into it, as you can see, I'm in a big rush to learn more. I'm going to give you that opportunity because I think people definitely need to know a little bit about your background. And I know that you have a course coming up and I wanted you could talk about it now. I want you to talk about it at the end again, but let's go ahead and give you an opportunity to say hello and introduce yourself too.
Thanks so much, Dr. Ghadir. So my name is Dr. Uma Naidoo. I am a nutritional psychiatrist. I'm also a trained chef. I've studied nutrition, and I'm the author of a book that Dr. Shahir mentioned, and it is called This Is Your Brain on Food. And really what it is it's a culmination of my work in nutritional psychiatry, which is the use of healthy whole foods and nutrients to improve your mental well-being. Something that is something we do every day is we eat. We eat several times a day. And I think that food becomes a really simple and one of the solutions that we should be looking to improve our lifestyles. Based on the feedback that emerged after my book came out, a lot of people wanted to learn more. So I've designed the first course in this area that I'm releasing at the end of November. You'll start to see ads on it and sharing posts next week, but I hope it'll be of use to people. That's the most important thing, is that people want to know more beyond the book. And you can also find the basics in the book.
So that's amazing. So it's a virtual course that you're going to be giving. Is it a one-day course, a 1-hour course, a multiple week series?
Sure. So it's actually a multiple week series, which we will release online for people who register and pay for the course. But I'm also hosting several free events before that, which are masterclasses where I will show up and kind of walk you through what we plan to do so that people have an understanding of what the course is about. Each week we will release modules so that you can actually go at your own pace. You can study at night, you can do it at your lunch hour, you can do it on your phone as you're commuting somewhere. So it's really intended to be user-friendly. And the reason I made it virtual is that people reach out from all parts of the world, and I wanted to make it accessible to everyone.
It's, in some ways, what happened to us in the last year and a half taught us so much. We used to do webinars. Actually, we used to do seminars. Once a month here in my office building, there's an auditorium that holds 90 people. It used to get full. Sometimes people had to sit on the floor and people had to drive after work to make it over here. And now we do them as webinars. I have people listening from all over the world. We have so many more participants than we ever did in person. So I just think it's interesting what we learned, and good for you. I think that's going to be amazing. And thank God it's accessible to everyone. But one of the things I took away from our last discussion was that truly food has a lot to do with well-being, whether it's mental health, whether it's your overall well-being, whether it's your fertility. And people ask me all the time when we're doing consultations, what can I do to improve my chances of getting pregnant? And I really do believe that there's things you can do to increase your chances of being pregnant. But I think that actually the question I'm saying is that there's things you can do to be healthier as a human being, happier as a human being, that give you progress in your life, and then that helps your fertility. So I don't think like eating, corn or something specific makes you pregnant, which some of my patients really do believe, and they've read all these myths about pineapple or Brazil nuts and things like that, which None of them can hurt you, so I'm okay with them doing it. But I'd like to go a little deeper today, really understanding where you like someone to start. So if I was a 35-year-old woman having fertility issues, coming to Dr. Ghadir's clinic in Beverly Hills, and they did a consultation with you, what would you start and how would you guide that person through this process?
I think that's a great question. And you may be surprised at some of the answers I'm going to give you, but here's how I think about it. I feel like what you said is absolutely true. There isn't a quick fix or magic pill around some issues. As doctors, we know that there might be clinical reasons that a woman may need help in terms of really the expertise that you bring to the table. But for the matter of our lives, our physical and our mental health, how we are eating has become really a lifestyle measure rather than a diet or a fad or an overnight quick fix. And here's what I mean by that. So often I'm hearing about eat this and not that, drink this and don't drink that. This will cure fertility and that will improve something else. And I think this is where people get confused. I'm not saying that there aren't foods that can help, but part of it comes down to what I truly believe is important, which is our gut microbiome, the gut-brain connection. Because a lot of conditions have some basis in gut imbalance or dysbiosis, or inflammation is another way to say that. For example, we are now actively calling Alzheimer's disease type 3 diabetes. Why? Because the risk factors for cardiac disease and type 2 diabetes also apply to Alzheimer's. And one of the things that comes back to full circle is how we're eating. Is it the only reason? No, but it's one cornerstone to what we can change. Let's think about it together. We eat several times a day. This is something we can up our game on. Any one of us can improve, and it starts off with some basic principles. All of the things I'm about to say will also help your gut microbiome, which I like to think of as Grand Central Station in New York, because kind of everything kind of goes through there, from our hormones to our vitamin production, to management of infections, to neurotransmitter production and processing and interaction with gut microbes, and multiple other things, sleep, circadian rhythm, etc. So how we eat becomes important. Simple, basic principles: clean up your diet. Now, when I say that for myself as well. Any one of us can be improving things that we do. Lean into things like vegetables. Why? They're rich in fiber. They're rich in antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties, which are great for your gut, reduce inflammation, and are good for your brain. The fiber feeds the microbes.
Are there, sorry to interrupt you, are there any specific vegetables that you think are better than others? Is it greeny leaf? Is it any colors or not certain ones? Sure, please let me know.
Absolutely. So my favorite are sulforaphane-rich vegetables, or they're called cruciferous. So cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, to name a few. So sulforaphane is an important antioxidant and nutrient that will help. These are vegetables that tend to be low in calorie. They mainly need a lot of flavor, which you can add from spices, which are also good for you. So those are my sort of one of my favorite groups. And the other favorite group are simple leafy greens. When your doctor says eat a salad, we've now grown to understand in mental health and well-being is very important. Why? Because leafy greens, the greener the better, contain folate. Folate is an important nutrient. We know that women take folic acid, which is a supplemental form, a pill form, when they are trying to get pregnant. But you could also get folate, natural folate, from leafy greens. And I say, if you like them, eat several cups a day. The greener the better. So that's another nutrient. Omega-3 fatty acids from, if you eat seafood, fatty fish like salmon, wild sockeye salmon, or plant-based sources, flax seeds, chia seeds, sea vegetables, and things like that. Then you come to the prebiotic foods, which again nurture the gut.
Dr. Uma, one question. The vegetables. So Brussels sprouts and cauliflower, okay? If they are cooked, does it change how it helps you, or are you talking about them in their raw state?
So here's what I like to do. Every vegetable, and by the way, there's several more. I'm just, for the sake of brevity, trying to add these in. But here's how I think about it. A vegetable has its own microbiome. Okay, so I say to people, there are certain things, for example, steaming spinach can decrease the oxalate levels. But for the most part with vegetables, as you're preparing them, keep a few bites of crudité, chopped veggies to dip in something, and then cook whatever else you're making for that day. Because that way you have a little bit of the fresh veggie, either that day at a salad or snack later, and then cook the rest. So I would rather people handle it that way so they're getting both benefits rather than saying you have to eat it raw or you have to eat it cooked. Then there are the prebiotic foods. Prebiotic fiber is incredibly important for microbes, and you get it from things like bananas, oats, and several other foods. And I list all these in my book. And I put them on Instagram. So these are easy to obtain through our diet. Spices, another big category. Turmeric with a pinch of black pepper, saffron, which we use in dishes. One comment I'll make about saffron is studies showed that they were much higher levels used in a supplemental form. So for that, if you're struggling with your mood, if you feel that you want to include it for clinical purposes, speak to your doctor about a supplement in that. So you know,
saffron and turmeric.
And turmeric with a pinch of black pepper.
Okay, because those are things that are very common in my diet as a raised in a Middle Eastern family. I'm not sure if a lot of America uses turmeric or saffron in their food, but they need to learn because that makes food really delicious.
It makes food delicious, and it's actually really good for your brain. So I always say, and you make a really good point. I always say add a quarter teaspoon of turmeric with literally a pinch of black pepper into a soup, a smoothie, into a tea, and learn to use it if you don't cook. But then, you know, there are a huge study done published in August in Cell, very reputable journal, from a group at Stanford, show that fermented foods are extremely important. Every culture, as you know, has a fermented food, and ideas of fermented foods are miso, sauerkraut, kefir, kimchi. These are great for our gut, and they actually help reduce inflammation. So coming back to your first question, Dr. Ghadir, you know, helping inflammation in the body is going to help other conditions, and fermented foods is another good way to go.
So I think I've told you this before. I have noticed that I used to not be very in tune with my body. Like I just eat everything and just be fine and move on. And then I started to pay a little bit more attention. And when I reduced the amounts of desserts and sweets, including probably wine, I noticed I felt less inflammation. I don't know how to explain it. I don't even know how to explain it, verbalize it, that I felt less inflammation. But I completely agree with you that the state of inflammation, which is really eating everything that's bad out there for you, which causes you major inflammation, the sweets, the fast food, the preservatives, and everything else that's bad for us, causes our body to go into a state of inflammation, is really, really bad. And I think that causes a lot of issues. And I've noticed my patients that are not on these clean, healthy diets, they don't do as well. And maybe it's because their level of inflammation is a lot higher. And the fact that you're putting attention on the gut-brain biome and the relationship between your gut and your brain, you know, I think this is something that's been ignored for so long, and how important it is for us, because all your hormones go through your gut. All the hormones then give feedback to the pituitary gland in your brain that then affects your ovaries, then affects your egg quality. So all of these are there. So those are great pointers. Those are wonderful, wonderful pointers. When patients talk to me about doing a kind of a detox, you know, sometimes I get really confused by what they're saying because I've never done a detox. But do you think that there is something that should be involved with cleaning and getting you back to normal and reducing inflammation?
Absolutely. I think there are ways to start that are not as extreme as a detox, because usually when people are using that word, Dr. Ghadir, they are doing something a little extreme. You know, they're giving up something very suddenly, or they using things that they buy as part of a plan that they're drinking or eating or consuming in a certain way. Here are my tips on this. right now, today, if you're listening to this, just look at your kitchen, look at what you have at home to eat, and start cleaning that up. I'm not saying it's bad. Maybe you actually are a healthy eater, but many of us just picked up some unhealthy habits during COVID, right? Research has shown that more Americans have not gained weight, and a very, very small percentage lost weight. So we know that many of us are in trouble after COVID, or during COVID, I should say. So let's start there. If you've leaned on ice cream, if you're drinking way too much coffee is actually a healthy substance for your body. But pay attention to body intelligence. If it's affecting you and you're trying to get pregnant, then you need to cut back on it. You need to switch to something else. Maybe your doctor doesn't want you to have it at all. So it really depends on your condition and what your doctor is saying to you. So take Dr. Ghadir's advice on that one. But in general, if there's something, say there's cookies, lots of pretzels in your house, lots of something that is essentially unhealthy, can be different for different people. Think about how you can really start cutting back on that, because that's the best way to do it. And think about the things you can add back in. It's not actually about giving up, right? It's about what can you add in. You can add in all those foods we talked about. You can switch out your candy bar snack for healthy crudité with a nut butter. Celery sticks with the yummy nut butter that is good for you. You can, switch out the pretzels with homemade spinach chips, 20 minutes in the oven. Spices that you like, a little bit of avocado oil, so you get a crunchy taste to it. So those are ways to sort of take a step back and think about the things you can do. If you don't cook with turmeric, add it to a tea, add it to a soup that you are making, and add it to roasted vegetables if you do cook. So it's about starting small with habits that you can sustain. Because what I want this to be is that we make this part of our lifestyle. That for the most part, I talk about the 80-20 rule. For the most part, we're doing a great job of eating healthy. There'll be, a kid's party, something else that happens where you meet a cupcake or you eat a slice of pizza. It's not bad. This is life. This is what happens to every one of us. But what are you doing for the most part of that week, the most part of your life? Are you trying to make an effort to eat healthy? So, I don't like to demonize people or their habits, because I think we all are trying. We're all trying to be better. We're all trying to be healthier. And I think the way to think about it is, say Dr. Ghadir, you go to a party to pick up one of your kids and you eat a cupcake. It's okay. You'll make up at dinner time. Tomorrow you'll eat more of your salads, your greens, your healthy vegetables that we talked about, and you'll do it that way. So it's less about kind of beating ourselves up and more about finding that way forward, because what are we trying to do? We are trying to reduce inflammation. And I read an interesting thing that trans fats actually do impact fertility. So, trans fats are often in these processed packaged foods that we are used to. It's a way to think about it, maybe cut back. And that's just one of the many things that you mentioned, we should be cutting back on.
So trans fats, for those listening, are all the bad fats. The fats that are like in chips and in all of the things.
Yes.
That leads me to, I think one of the best things I've heard over the last couple of years is, if it has an expiration date, it is not good for you. Okay. That's something like, when you buy broccoli, there's no expiration date on it. But if it has an expiration date, that should be your first heads up that there's something wrong with what you're eating.
I like that.
The other question is so I take a turmeric capsule every morning. So, we have lots of food in the Iranian diet that has turmeric and soups and in rice and in different things. Yeah. If you don't, is taking the supplement, I take the supplement because I'm not eating Persian food every night like I used to when I was growing up. So can you take the supplement in a capsule form, the turmeric? Is it as good for you?
So, I don't know that we had studies that compared the eating it in a culinary form to consuming it in a capsule. But here's the thing. There are so many nutritional gaps we have. Supplements are fine. Make sure your doctor knows. Make sure that if you are taking a turmeric supplement, because supplements are not FDA regulated, get a reliable brand.
Yes,
and make sure that unless you're allergic to black pepper, which some people are, that it contains the additive black pepper in it to make it more bioavailable.
So, okay. So you've said that 3 times, and I was going to ask why. So the turmeric is bioavailable only if the black pepper makes it more bioavailable.
Makes it more bioavailable.
Okay.
And my feeling is, you're taking the turmeric, why not make it the best for your brain and body?
So that's just someone uneducated like me that saw the one on the counter at the pharmacy that said turmeric, and there was one with black pepper, and I was like, why in the world would I take black pepper? So now I learned something else. Okay. I really wanted to address what you said, because shaming yourself, 3 months ago, I had gotten to I've hurt my shoulder. I couldn't run or exercise. I could run, but I didn't exercise like I was exercising. And when I'm exercising, I eat healthy. There's a signal that goes to my brain. It doesn't want me to eat all those bad foods. But when I'm not, I just become a machine of eating sugars and cakes and fats and things that I just are not good for me. So I started to run, and I have a running partner who kind of is like my running coach. And he is so fit, a million times more fit than me. And he said, yeah, yesterday I had 2 donuts. And he said, I don't do that to myself, about not allowing myself to have something that I want to have. But I know if I had 2 donuts yesterday, I'm not having a donut for the next few days at all. And I'm going to be really healthy the next day. And I'm going to really watch what I eat. So I think it's the balance and not shaming is a really important thing to understand. We're all human. You are allowed to have a cupcake at a kid's birthday party, and I don't want people to think that, because when you start to go to an extreme, it's really hard to maintain that for a long period of time. Now, I understand if a patient is very overweight and they're trying to really reach a goal, no, having a cupcake here and there is probably not going to allow you to achieve your goal as quickly. But for someone who really doesn't have that major problem, and you love a chocolate chip cookie, one of my partners loves chocolate chip cookies, and he eats so healthy. I see him eating healthy all the time, but when there's a chocolate chip cookie around, I see him eating it as well. He's not overweight. He's in great health, and I don't see anything wrong with that. So I want
it's in moderation. It's
completely in moderation.
In
moderation, and I think people should be allowing themselves to have that treat or do something, especially if you're good the rest of the time.
Right, and I should add the caveat, Dr. Ghadir, that as a nutritional psychiatrist, I obviously see more individuals with active mental health problems than individuals who may just be using nutritional interventions to feel better. So both types of individuals exist in my practice. But when someone is struggling with weight gain from psychiatric medications, which are a serious problem in psychiatric meds, I have to be careful with them and say, I'm sorry, no cupcakes until we get the weight off, and low glycemic fruit like berries. So there are always caveats to this. And that's why it's really about finding that plan in moderation with good, healthy eating habits, and understanding even that individual who's gained weight from, say, Prozac eats a cupcake. Well, let's course correct at the next time. At the next meal. So, I think that's just important, because in mental health, we have these meds that are life-saving on the one hand, but on the other hand, can cause these serious side effects.
Dr. Uma, I have one of my closest friends who moved to the United States from Europe about 2 years ago. We were at dinner and I ordered a salad before, and I noticed he never orders a salad. And I said to him, why don't you ever order a salad? He's like, well, I went to a clinic. It's a health clinic in Austria for like a month. And they said, no raw vegetables at nighttime. Then I said, well, we're talking again. And I'm like, yeah, when I go home after dinner, I just love to go to my fridge and have a piece of fruit before I go to bed. And he's like, whoa, never. We never do that. They told me in this clinic in Austria that is really not good for you. Do you know anything about this, having raw fruits and vegetables in the evening not being good for you?
I can look into that, Dr. Ghadir. I don't know anything off the top of my head. I mean, I think that sometimes people say if you eat too late, your food doesn't have a chance to digest. That's obviously something we know. But I'm not sure about what it is about the raw foods. I'd be curious to look up that research.
Yeah, and I'm happy to look up the name of it's a very famous clinic spa in Austria, and I'm going to send you the name. I'm just curious.
Okay. I'm happy to look at it. I certainly don't pretend to know all the answers, but I think a little piece of fruit is sometimes something I encourage people to do, and I do mean a small piece of fruit. I don't mean an entire pineapple. I don't mean, and not to say these aren't delicious fruit, but pineapple, mangoes, very much part of even South Asian culture. But the truth is, a very high glycemic, and that's a very high sugar load on your body at that time. So I'd like to say have a small square dark chocolate, extra dark chocolate, good for your brain, rich in antioxidants, cacao flavonols, magnesium, serotonin, and have it with a small clementine or piece of orange. That actually is a great flavor pairing, but is not going to be the same as a tub of ice cream or a serving of frozen yogurt, which gets its fame from being yogurt, but actually it's has a ton of sugar in it. So,
I'm going to talk about ice cream for 1 second. During the pandemic, I decided with my kids, we're going to start making ice cream at home because we were doing is buying ice cream, and the kids, I'm like, I'd rather make it myself. Once I made one batch of ice cream and I saw what went into the ice cream, I'm now scared to have ice cream. The amount of cream and the amount of sugar that went into the ice cream, and I was making this at home, I was reducing the amount of sugar.
Yeah.
And if you don't put the cream, you're not going to have ice cream. We made banana flavored ice cream. Like, it was scary how much sugar and cream went into making the ice cream. Yeah. And my wife likes to say I only made ice cream once and we never used the machine again. She's right again. And I shouldn't have bought the machine, and it's sitting there now on the counter. But what's a better solution for someone who, I don't know anyone that doesn't like ice cream.
Sure. So in my book, I actually share this recipe for ice cream made from bananas. And here's how you do it. You basically use the sweetness of the bananas. And again, you're not going to eat the whole tub, guys. You can eat a serving. You allow the bananas to ripen, and there's a recipe to actually whip the bananas. You can make a plain flavor, a chocolate flavor. You can add flavorings to it. It's the method of how you do it. And it just basically has bananas and whatever additional ingredient, using the sweetness of the bananas to make the ice cream, and you chill it and serve it as an ice cream. So unless one of your children is allergic to bananas, it's actually a great thing to try. And my other tip that I've
so
done
that's to replace the sugar.
So no, that's the actual ice cream. The actual ice cream is made from whipped bananas.
But so but you still put the cream in it?
No.
Oh wow. Okay.
In fact, I use nut milk because it adds to the protein if I need to loosen the mixture.
Okay.
And I can put chocolate chips in it. I can flavor it with dark natural cacao to make it a chocolate flavor. So there's lots of stuff you can do with it, but the base is the actual fruit, and you're not adding the extra sugar, and you're not adding cream. Now, another way to do this is something like watermelon. Watermelon pops. You can actually make creamy with a cream nut-based milk, and add in blueberries and put them in like popsicles, so that kids feel they're having some form of an ice cream. There are ways to do this.
My kids love making those popsicles.
Yeah, and using fresh fruit. They're getting a serving of fruit. They're not eating 10 of them. Again, it's portion control, but they have fun making it. They know what goes into it. It's teaching them great habits about healthy eating, as well. So I think that those are some of my tips. Like, I just saw some candy molds for Halloween, and I was thinking, what could I do with these candy molds that are not just melting chocolate, right? And one of the things I'm testing at the moment is creating applesauce from apples, right? And I'll get seasonal apples from my farmer's market that are right now ripe, and soften them, remove the peel, soften them into an apple puree. And what I'm thinking about is like making these kind of scary, for Halloween treats, these scary like things that look like blood, but putting natural beet powder, which is actually good for your heart. And it has a ton of antioxidants in it, and making it red that way. So you're not using, food coloring, and just creating a treat that you can chill and freeze, but it's actually made from apples,
Wow.
And beets. So it's rethinking it, right? It's just figuring out how can we do this in a fun way, and kids are then going to be eating healthier.
That's great. I guess you have to be creative and you have to be smart, and you have so many resources available to anyone who's interested. I love that. So thank you. Thank you again. Every time we talk, I learn so much. I feel horrible that I wasn't taking notes, but thank God this is recorded and I get to listen back to it, and then I'll take all my notes. I want you to one more time give us a little plug about the course that's coming up and how to enroll and exactly when it's going to start.
Sure. So thank you, Dr. Ghadir, for having me again. My course will be the first course that I'm releasing in nutritional psychiatry. It's geared towards if you're an everyday person just wanting to eat healthier, but also if you're a clinician, health coach practitioner, we have it all for you. And it goes beyond my book. It goes into much greater depth on certain topics that we hear about are more important to people. It will be all virtual. There will be a limited number of spots, and I'm saying that because we're starting to release those spots later this month in early November. So watch me on Instagram at DRUMANAIDOO or subscribe to my website, umanaidoomd.com. The course is really intended to help you learn more, live a better life, practice this way, use these methods. And it will be self-learning at your own pace. There will be live components, and I will have some free masterclasses leading up to that, where you can join me and have, I'll answer questions and help you understand what we're going to share in the course. So I'm excited about that because people have asked from, I'm touched people have asked from all over the world, and I hope it'll be a learning tool for many.
That's lovely. If your team can send me information, I'd love to put it on top of my social channels as well, because I really want to encourage my patients to enroll because I think it's so important. And hopefully we can have this podcast air before that so that everyone is going to be aware of that. So thank you again. Thank you so much for being with us. You are a wealth of knowledge and come to an angle that no one else addresses. So I appreciate you so much, and always a pleasure to speak with you.
Thanks, Dr. Ghadir. It's always fun to talk, and I appreciate your support.
Thank you so much.